Welcome to today's webinar, co-hosted by Illinois Extension and the Illinois Office of Broadband. We're hosting Matt Schmidt, who always presents these webinars with the numerous funding opportunities from the Office of Broadband. Today, he's hosting and presenting for this forum on Connect Illinois Infrastructure Grant Round 2. This is an applicant forum where he's going to present additional information and updates and take questions from the participants. For sound quality, I have muted the mics, but you're all encouraged to use the chat space to ask questions at any time during Matt's presentation. As you think of them, just enter them into the into the chat space. If you're having technical issues, you can also put those there as well, or direct message me with your issue, and we'll work through that during the webinar. And after today's presentation, I'll be sending a follow-up email as well with the slides from today and the recording from today's session. If you did not register for today's session and you're hoping to get those slides, just direct message me your email address and I'll make sure to include you in the follow-up email. And the other thing I would want to add is that I'll be putting in an archive in the chat box that's unique for the past broadband webinars. So users can look to see if there's a specific webinar that Matt has given in the past if you want to review something. Okay, so I just want to say thank you to Matt again for being here today with this important information, and I'll hand it over to you now.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Nancy. And as always, it's a pleasure to join you. And thank you and University Extension for making this possible. You always make it so easy for us. So thank you. I guess just for folks out of the gates here, this webinar is devoted to our Connect Illinois Broadband Grant Program, which is our infrastructure grant program. In recent months, we've also announced a digital equity program that has a number of funding opportunities. We will not be talking about any of those today, but rather we'll be focusing on our Connect Illinois Broadband Grant Program, the infrastructure program. And so if you're interested in the equity programming, we have a whole catalog and an increasing library that Nancy just referenced of great webinar content available on the Extension website. You can link to it through our Connect Illinois website. Also, much of this information is available directly on our Connect Illinois website. And so I just wanted to mention that right out of the gates here today. The goal of today's webinar, because we have had now, this will be the third for our Connect Illinois Round 2 grant opportunity, is to do an overview of the information that is available on our website. And so we'll talk about our notice of funding opportunity, the map, supporting documentation, and the application process. And so if you feel like you have a good handle on that, use your discretion on whether or not you want to listen to me for the next hour or so. But we are looking to start the new year here with kind of a higher level overview of all the content that's available. If Nancy's willing, we'll plan on having a follow-up webinar here in the coming weeks to get into a little bit more detail about the application process and some of the specifics. And as always, we really want to make this interactive, and so please feel free to enter questions in on the chat box, and we'll try to provide some answers along the way here. Otherwise, we'll leave ample time at the back end to address your questions. If we don't get to any questions today, our hope is that the discussion today is going to inform a revision to our frequently asked question document, or FAQ, that's available on our website. And so one way or another, we'll try to get you a good answer to your questions. And so with all of that said, I guess one final thing I'd like to say before I jump in here is, the whole goal of the webinar is to bring to life our funding opportunity, our Connect Illinois program. I'm going to try to be as accurate and consistent in the way I talk about everything as possible. But if for some reason there's any confusion created by our conversation today, what is included in our NOFO, the Notice of Funding Opportunity, and related documentation, that's the final word on our program, not necessarily what I say today. That being said, I'm going to try to be as consistent as I possibly can and be helpful and not cause confusion. And so with that said, we can dive into this. As always, I like to begin the conversation by directing folks to our Connect Illinois website. We really take seriously the idea of sharing information that we have and being transparent about what we do. And so we update this fairly regularly. It doesn't mean it's a perfect site, but nonetheless, we do our best to get useful information up there that's useful to you and to other stakeholders around Illinois. And so as you can see on the website, we do have a number of resources available along the vertical column at the right here, description of our Connect Illinois program, opportunities for low-cost broadband subscription, some word about our computer equity network that was recently launched in December. Another effort to address the digital divide. Our Making Connections resource to try to connect communities or providers or other stakeholders with one another who are interested in perhaps partnering on broadband projects. A word about our federal broadband opportunities, which will be updated here given recent developments in Washington with the new COVID-19 relief funding, some good broadband opportunities there. Then we have our strategic plan and of course our newsletter. If you haven't signed up for that, that's a great way of staying informed on what we're up to. And so as you scroll down here, there's more information on maps and data in our digital equity programming that I referenced a moment ago. But as it relates to our Connect Illinois Broadband Grant Program here, we have the Broadband Grants header at the upper right and a number of resources that are available to our grantees. And so we begin with the Broadband Eligibility Map that has been updated with recent data, the latest FCC Form 477 data that is available to us, as well as updates from our round one projects. We do not have RDOF results in here yet just because well, those are not final and there are a number of questions regarding the Rural Digital Opportunities Fund. So this is the updated map. You can see here the areas in dark blue are those that are considered served of service of at least 100 by 20 megabits per second speeds. Light blue are the areas that we consider to be underserved, somewhere between 25 by 3 and 100 by 20 service. And then the areas in green, which the Federal Communications Commission FCC Form 477 data tells us lack service at that 25 by 3 level. I say this often, as much as we appreciate having this mapping available to us, it is far from perfect. And so we don't want any stakeholders or potential applicants to look at this map as you zoom in. It is interactive after all. You can plug in your address or zoom into your area. If the map indicates that you are served and you feel or know otherwise, please feel free to reach out to us. You certainly can submit an application anyways, making your best case, and we'll have a conversation with you. And so I just want to make clear to folks that this map is certainly not the end of the conversation on broadband eligibility, but rather the beginning of that conversation. And we do look forward to having some updated, more accurate, more granular data and mapping available to us here in Illinois. It just will not be available before the March 1 deadline for Connect Illinois Round 2. And so it's something that we will be using for our programming moving forward, just not for Round 2. And so a lot could be said about mapping, but I will move on to the next slide. We certainly can come back to this if there are any questions. So as you go back to the Connect Illinois website, you can scroll down in this upper right-hand corner. We just went through in brief the grant eligibility map. You can also click on the round one map that'll show you the projects that were funded in round one of Connect Illinois. Likewise, if you scroll down, you have summaries that will describe the projects funded in round one. If you go down here to the round two NOFO, the Notice of Funding Opportunity, and if you click on that, you'll open up a page that looks like there's not a whole lot of great information here. Of course, you have our broadband@illinois.gov email address if you have any questions for our broadband office. That's kind of the one-stop shop for learning about our broadband grant program. But as you scroll down here, there's a number of options that you can open up in terms of the supporting documentation. And each of these basically represents a component of what's required for a complete application for Connect Illinois Round 2. And so you'll see at the top, in no particular order here, we have a mandatory disclosure form that's required. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about that. In fact, no time talking about that today. It's pretty self-explanatory once you open it up. As you move down here, there's a uniform application, the fourth item down. This is pretty straightforward, just gives us an opportunity to better know you as an applicant. Moving down, there's a budget template. We'll spend a little bit more time in a future webinar talking about that. And then also a conflict of interest disclosure form. Those are all pretty straightforward. Of course, the budget template is going to take a little bit more time to fill out than the rest. We'll come back to that down the road. But for today's purposes, we want to spend a little time on this NOFO supplement, the actual articulation of our grant program and its funding opportunity, which we did treat in depth during our previous 2 webinars on Connect Illinois Round 2. So we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on that today, but you get into some of the supporting documentation, the application packet. And this is linked both here and also on that vertical menu on the previous slide. But if you click on the NOFO supplemental link on that prior page, it'll take you to our notice of funding opportunity. Again, we've covered this in more detail in previous webinars, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this today. But round 2, we have up to $50 million available with a maximum grant amount of $5 million per project. We can receive multiple submissions or proposals from a given applicant, but each individual project cannot ask for more than $5 million in state funding. The application period officially opened on December 1, and it will extend until March 1st of 2021. So we've got a couple of months here. We feel like this is a good time to re-engage after the new year and start a conversation with interested applicants about our program and how to participate. One thing that I just want to mention here before we move on is the importance of understanding GATA, the Grant Accountability and Transparency Act, its requirements, and your need to be pre-qualified. And so this is referenced in the Notice of Funding Opportunity, the NOFO itself, but to be a eligible applicant, you have to be GATA pre-qualified. And so this isn't something you can save until after March 1st, but rather you've got to do that before then. And so I would advise interested applicants to make sure that you are GATA pre-qualified. And along the same vein, understand GATA. And so you'll have a link in the previous NOFO slides here that I had shared, and also on our website and in the Notice of Funding Opportunity itself to learn more about the Grant Accountability and Transparency Act. We just want to stress the importance of looking at that now and understanding that now. And we'll come back to that in more detail in a future webinar too. And finally, just some words, I guess, in terms of preparing a grant application. We really stress that you read the NOFO carefully. We're trying to provide opportunities and make this as relatively user-friendly as possible to interested applicants. That being said, there's a couple of really important big pieces here that you're required to undertake, and so we want to help you understand how to get there. In terms of the thoroughness, we give you a little bit more detail here in terms of completing your project analysis and other documentation. We will provide templates for you to fill out as an applicant, and also ask that you attach and label appendices accordingly. More direction on each of those bullets is provided in the supplemental application packet material. But I just wanted to take a moment just to stress that those are things that we find important, if not required, for an applicant to be eligible. And so please take the time on the front end to make sure that you've got those ducks in a row. And so now if you were to go back to our Connect Illinois website and you were to click on the application packet, it would be the part 1 of that 2-part packet. It'll take you to a document that gives you a little bit of guidance in our or towards our Connect Illinois Round 2 Notice of Funding Opportunity, this program. Part 1 is a detailed overview of the program. It includes project categories, grant selection criteria, scoring categories, and a word about our Fed Celerator framework. Part 2 actually gets into the application itself and provides a template for applicants. And so we'll just take a moment here to review part 1 of that application packet. Again, it does describe the 4 project categories that are also included in the NOFO: broadband access, broadband equity, broadband innovation, and urban broadband. These are 4 distinct categories that we are asking applicants to essentially self-identify under, and applicants will be scored by a merit review team on a competitive basis. We have the same scoring criteria applied to these 4 categories, but awards may be given within each category. And so just to ensure that they are apples to apples comparisons. So projects that are identified as broadband access that focus primarily on new or improved connections to homes, businesses, community anchors, institutions, and unserved or underserved areas will be scored and awarded competitively within that category. Likewise for our broadband equity, broadband innovation, and urban broadband categories. And so in previous webinars, we've spent a little bit of time talking about these 4 categories. So again, I'm not going to get into too much detail here unless there are questions. But one change between round 1 and round 2 is that the broadband equity category recognizes that there are parts of Illinois, whether they are the most rural of the rural, where population sparsity is an issue, or other areas that might be more population dense, where adoption rates are lacking. In either case, you may not have a strong economic position for the requisite 50-50 sharing, public Connect Illinois state grant dollars and the otherwise requisite 50% non-state match. And so for applications that come to us under the broadband equity category, we are willing to relax that 50% non-state match requirement, but the applicant is going to have to make a very strong case that because of project economics or demographics or adoption rates, that particular area and the broadband deployment proposed for that area does not require a 50% non-state match. For those projects in the broadband access category, broadband innovation category, or urban broadband categories, a 50% non-state match or greater is required. And so I just wanted to stress that. I would anticipate quite a few of our applications, a majority of them, in fact, likely will be in the access, innovation, or broadband categories. We will apply, very strict kind of scrutiny, if you will, to the broadband equity applications that are asking for more than 50% state grant to get that project done. And so just wanted to spend a moment reviewing that. Third, here we have selection criteria and scoring. And the next slide will actually provide a little bit of an overview on how these 200 points are allocated to project impact, non-state match and demonstration of need, community support, project readiness, project viability and sustainability, affordability and adoption assistance, and open access, shared use, and business strategy. And we talked about this in more depth in our previous webinar, but nonetheless, I wanted to remind folks these are the scoring categories that we will be making decisions off of in large part. And so please look at the application packet. Part 1 will get into much more detail on each one of the selection criteria categories. Again, we just ran through those: project impact all the way down to open access, shared use, and business strategy. And likewise, the application template in part 2 of our application packet will help guide applicants to understand these categories and take advantage of those point opportunities. So just wanted to mention, we have, that was part 3 of our, that was section 3 of part 1 of our application packet for Connect Illinois round 2. We do give some additional consideration to the factors and selection criteria in section 4 of part 1. Section 5 of part 1 talks a little bit about our Fed Celerator framework. And that's our attempt to recognize that there are increasingly promising federal funding opportunities for broadband, and that we want to position applicants to Connect Illinois and other broadband stakeholders in Illinois to take full advantage of those federal funding opportunities, and where it makes sense to match federal dollars with state dollars and local dollars, whether they're public or private dollars. And so we have this framework included both in our application packet for Connect Illinois round 2, as well as on our website. And so I won't spend too much time getting into the details of the Fed Celerator framework. But the point here is we are trying to put our applicants and broadband stakeholders in a position to maximize federal dollars available to them, whether it's in current federal funding opportunities or federal funding opportunities that we anticipate in the future. And so if a applicant to Connect Illinois were to select the Fed Celerator framework category, you would be positioning yourselves to take advantage of those federal dollars down the road and apply them to a Connect Illinois round 2 grant. So you can see here we have our Fed Celerator framework, the same language articulated on our Connect Illinois website. You can actually see the link here Actually, it's not on this page, but nonetheless, the language here is in front of you. And I anticipate there may be some questions regarding this, so we're happy to come back to this if there are. And so now back to our website, we have the Connect Illinois Application Packet 2. This is what it will look like. You scroll down, you can see what a complete application includes. Broadband application will include an application overview, essentially a cover page articulating your project, who you are, what you're trying to accomplish, a project dashboard, an executive summary, a map and location data, articulation of project impact, non-state match, community support, project readiness, viability and sustainability, affordability and adoption assistance, open access, shared use, and business strategy. Those are all the categories that we just mentioned in terms of our scoring criteria, and you can see them right here as component parts of our broadband application. And then as well, we have an invitation for including appendices for key attachments. So that's the broadband application portion of your Connect Illinois Round 2 application. But as I mentioned earlier, there's also the uniform grant application that is required by Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity that was referenced previously, the uniform capital budget, the conflict of interest disclosure form, and the mandatory disclosures, as well as a W-9 form. And so you can see A, B, C, D, E, F. Those are the 6 parts of a complete application for this funding opportunity. Within the broadband application, section A here, you can see how that's arranged. And so part 2 of our application packet essentially is an application template for applicants to fill in their answers to the questions being sought, the information being sought. And it was designed for round 2 to be more interactive, more user-friendly for our applicants. And so hopefully you'll find it to be as such. If there's any feedback folks have on the application packets, part 1 or part 2, we welcome that. Otherwise, we do expect that part 2 essentially is going to be the application template for addressing part A here, the broadband application components. So hopefully that makes sense here. I didn't mean to confuse matters there. Probably could have said that a little bit more artfully, but just wanted to lay out what's included in part 2 of that application packet. And again, I'm not going to go through the whole thing here today. It's not short, but it's not worth scrolling through every page here on the webinar today. And so at that stage, I wanted to open it up for any questions and make sure we're prioritizing areas that folks would like to talk about. Again, this was more of a high-level overview just to kind of revisit our Connect Illinois program and to start the new year, I think, looking at the opportunities ahead of us. We will plan on following up and getting into a little bit more detail about specific aspects of the application process. And again, if there are questions that come up during the course of our conversation today, or if there is any interest among listeners, please don't hesitate to shoot us an email at broadband@illinois.gov, and we'd be happy to talk about or consider including content in a future webinar. At minimum, we have that FAQ, frequently asked question document that we'll be updating after today's conversation, and there may be a couple additional revisions to that before the March 1 deadline. We just want to keep that as current as possible with useful information for potential applicants. And so with that said, we've got a good amount of time here for questions and discussion if there are any. Otherwise, hopefully folks found this more helpful than that.
Thank you, Matt. Right off the bat, we had an early question come through that was from Jim Edwards, and he's wondering, how can a municipality take advantage of this grant opportunity? Partnerships with providers like Comcast or AT&T. And so if you could speak to that a little bit, I'll curate some of the other questions that will be coming in. I encourage others to put questions in the chat box as well.
Great, and thank you. This is a good question. And basically, as we've talked about in previous webinars, and certainly this was the case for round 1, we invite applications from a variety of different kind of applicants in Illinois. So whether you're a broadband provider, traditional telco, ISP, a rural cooperative, a local municipality, a local community, or a nonprofit, or another form of partnership, we're willing to work with you. I think the key here is we want to be, very careful and in protecting, taxpayer dollars in the interest of our program, that we're going to look at applicants with a high level of scrutiny and make sure that those applicants, can do the work and that they're in a position to take state dollars, match them with non-state funding, and build out broadband networks that are going to stand the test of time and deliver great, high quality, affordable broadband to Illinoisans. And so I think the question about whether there's a local government or municipality interested in applying for Connect Illinois around $2, we welcome your participation in our program. I would just emphasize that I think it's important for a local government to be talking to folks who have experience in broadband deployment, whether it's the providers in your area or a provider that you would like to invite to your area. It's really important that we have grantees and partners for the Connect Illinois program that have a demonstrated track record of doing this work. And so that leaves open a lot of different kind of partnership models. Certainly leaves open the opportunity for communities to be a lead applicant and kind of take charge of improving broadband connectivity and options in their area. And so again, I just want to emphasize we're very inviting of different kinds of applicants, and we just stress that any dollars that we're investing through our Connect Illinois program, we want to make sure that we're partnering with grantees that have a track record of doing this kind of work, and that we have full faith that can get the job done.
Thanks. Our next question is, can Connect Illinois dollars be used as matching dollars for a federal grant? Would the 50% limitation on federal dollars still apply?
So what we're looking for here, and this kind of harkens back to our Fed Celerator framework, and I could have jumped into a little bit more detail with this. I anticipated a couple of questions might be coming, and so the point here is that we're trying to articulate kind of guidelines or a framework by which we anticipate there being federal, state, and local dollars at play. And so the short answer is yes, and we anticipate in the year 2021. Certainly in light of the pandemic, and I think priorities in Washington as we anticipate them, we look forward to significant investment in broadband. And some of that may be investment that has been announced that's coming through programming for which the details are being worked out. We also anticipate some of that's going to be programming that has not been announced in dollars that have not yet been appropriated. And so the point is here, we're willing to be flexible in terms of where a non-state match comes from. I think the lion's share of our projects are going to require that 50% non-state match. And if those dollars can come from federal sources, we're certainly willing to invite those. But we also want to make sure that our local providers or applicants or communities have some skin in the game, so to speak, too. And so the general rule of thumb here is we don't anticipate, dividing the federal, state, and local, whether it's public or private shares, more than 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, so to speak. And so basically, we're going to ask that a state provider or a community or an applicant that becomes a grantee to Connect Illinois, they put up at least 1/3 of the total project costs. I think there may be some cases where we may be open to making exceptions to that, but that's the guiding principle here. I don't want any potential applicants to think, oh, geez, I'm going to go get 50% from the federal, programming that's available. I'm going to get 50% from Connect Illinois. I don't have to have any skin in the game myself, and that's what we're trying to avoid. We really want to, at most probably strike that 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 kind of balance. But again, this is a framework, and the goal here is to put stakeholders and applicants and in those who want to invest in broadband in a strong position to go after federal dollars and to think creatively and innovatively about how to leverage Connect Illinois and those federal dollars to get the job done.
Thanks, Matt. The next question was in regards to the round one applications. I had put a link in the chat box to the online PDF that talks about the round one projects. there was interest in knowing about those round one grantees and what providers they were working with that were open to working with the community. So I put that in the chat space. I
Oh,
think
great.
most of the summaries in the PDF do mention the providers, but I wanted to see, Matt, if you had anything to add about providers and partnerships in general.
Yeah, I think, a good rule of thumb, I would say, is if you look at whether it's the Connect Illinois program or if you look at other federal programs where you've seen a provider in your area uh, seeking uh, public dollars to expand broadband networks, that's a good place to start. And if you're a local community looking for a provider partner, um, I think it demonstrates on the part of those providers an interest or a willingness in that kind of public-private partnership model, where you bring in some public dollars to extend networks to hard-to-reach areas. And so I certainly think that that's a starting point if you're a community looking for a provider to serve your area. That being said, I'm also aware of a number of providers that may have sat out round one of Connect Illinois just because, well, there was a lot going on this time a year ago, and also perhaps they wanted to see what Connect Illinois was all about and what it looked like. And so I expect that we'll see in round two some familiar faces, so to speak, of providers that have and applicants that have applied for round one. I also would expect that there will be some new entrants into the Connect Illinois market, so to speak. And so hopefully that helps. What we'll do is, and we're trying to make this a little bit more, I think, interactive and sophisticated, but that making connections tab on that vertical menu that we've ran through several times here on our Connect Illinois website. What we're trying to do there is if there's a community that is looking for a provider partner, they certainly can let us know, and we'll try to share that in a public setting so that, hey, if there is a provider out there that would like to expand to a certain part of the state, they know that the Office of Broadband has heard from that community. And certainly the inverse can be true too. But we just want to, we want to try to tactfully play matchmaker where we can, but we obviously don't do much more than share information regarding our Connect Illinois Round 2 funding opportunities and walk folks through the opportunity together in a public setting. And so I think that matchmaking it's something that we want to be helpful, but we also we kind of know our limitations there too.
Thanks, Matt. I see that you saw that second question that was sort of like the previous one, but wanted more information on those pending applications. So thanks for addressing that. The next question is, how can cities best leverage this opportunity with private equity providers to expand pre-existing community ISPs?
Yeah, so there's a lot of talk in opportunities, I think, regarding private equity investment, and I certainly think that's going to be true where we're at right now in this broadband moment, so to speak, in light of the pandemic. I think the realization among just about everybody that if you don't have connections to high quality, high speed, affordable broadband, you're at a significant disadvantage, whether it's for education or healthcare or just competing in the 21st century economy, staying connected. You know the drill. This is as important as ever. And so I think because of that, plus the promise of current and new public investments in broadband, I see there being some opportunities there. I think from our standpoint, we're willing to share information if it comes to us in a public setting so that communities and others know what's out there and who might be interested in partnering. That being said, I think you look at our program, we are really open-minded to innovative approaches. We encourage whether it's communities or providers or other stakeholders that would like to play a role in Connect Illinois to come to us with their ideas. And so we look at each round of grant funding as kind of a read of the market or listening to what stakeholders are telling us. And so we don't anticipate that round 2 is going to be the end of the show here with Connect Illinois, but rather very much the beginning of it. And so ideas that come to us, whether it's informally or formally through the grant application process, we would like to try to find a way to partner with them one way or another moving forward. And so I think that's one way for ideas to come to us. I think I'm going to stop myself there, but I think the whole point is we want to hear from you. If you've got some good ideas on how to expand broadband networks innovatively, whether it's through public-private partnership models or innovative finance models, we certainly want to have that conversation. If you've got some, detail in mind and you're in a position to put an application together, obviously read through our NOFO, understand and adhere to our requirements. And I think that they're certainly at minimum a start of a conversation there.
Great. We've got another question. How do I get the details on the grant that is closing on the 11th of January? I have a nonprofit that would like to go for the grant. Didn't know if you wanted to take a moment to talk about that, Matt.
Sure, I can revisit the idea of our digital equity package. And back in November, we announced 3 programs that are focused on basically digital equity. So not infrastructure necessarily, but the idea of broadband, affordability, broadband adoption, broadband utilization. And so we have three funding opportunities. I'm sorry, 3 partnership opportunities outside of the Connect Illinois Infrastructure Grant Program. And so one is our round 2 of our Illinois Connected Communities Program. The application window for that closes on January 25th. And that's really focused on engaging communities, whether it's neighborhoods or, maybe counties within the state or any kind of footprint in between, with better understanding broadband access, adoption, and utilization. It's focused both on short-term kind of connectivity and access expansion, but also on community planning and capacity building. And so that's a deadline of January 25th. Up to $15,000 grant is available, as well as around 50 hours of expert consultation and access to best practice curriculum. So it's really for growing capacity at the community level. We have another grant program. It's actually not a grant program, though. It's a partnership opportunity. It's called our Digital Navigator Notice of Collaboration Opportunity. And so if you look at Digital Navigator on that vertical menu on our Connect Illinois website, you'll see more information about that opportunity. And what we're trying to do there is essentially engage organizations or local communities that are willing to devote a certain portion of employee time to going through some training on digital equity and being a local resource for individuals who want to better understand maybe the providers that are available in the area, the subsidized or low cost broadband service programs that are available in the area, how individuals in that community might want to and might be able to take advantage of our computer refurbishing network. Likewise, for other opportunities for digital literacy and skills building. And so that's our digital equity package. It's not the focus of today's conversation necessarily, but information on both of those is available on our website. And I'm sorry, I don't have an actual map that shows this, but this digital equity header right here, if you were to open that up and scroll down, you will see more information about, I just don't have it on here, more information about the Connected Communities Program, as well as the Digital Navigator Program.
Yeah, and so I went ahead and clicked on that link that you just mentioned and put that URL in the chat box, so you can see the digital equity homepage there with the different opportunities that Matt was mentioning. And we do have some extra questions here that came in. Oh no, let's see. I don't see any additional questions. I can give a few moments to folks who maybe are thinking of any additional questions. Matt, if there's anything you are thinking that you would like to give as a takeaway to everybody today, you can go ahead and mention that, and we'll give everybody maybe like 30 more seconds to see if there's another question that can come through.
Sure. And again, Nancy, I think the goal here was in the start of the new year here to revisit our notice of funding opportunity. And for those potential applicants that haven't heard from us before, haven't considered this program, we wanted to kick off the new year talking about Connect Illinois. And so higher level overview of the information that's available on our website. We will be updating that frequently asked question document regarding some questions we received today. And certainly if questions come to us at broadband@illinois.gov, we'll try to integrate those into the FAQ document as well, just so everybody who's interested can benefit from the answers to those questions. I know there's some interest in that Fed Celerator program, and I think that's the big gray area here in the year ahead is, what is federal funding going to look like? Where is it going to go? How are you able to leverage that federal funding for Connect Illinois? And so we recognize that there are some unknowns there, and I think the takeaway on that piece is that we want to empower our stakeholders, our applicants, our folks in Illinois that want to see better broadband. They want to leverage federal dollars. We want to strengthen your hand to do so, and so we're willing to partner with you in ways that make sense. And so those are a couple pieces there. I guess I would just reach out to folks if there are questions regarding future webinar content, things that you'd like us to get in the weeds on. We'd be happy to do that. I think one point that's worth reiterating is just the importance of that GATA requirement, the Grant Accountability and Transparency Act. And so as you look at that NOFO, understand what's included in there. If you have any questions about that, don't hesitate to reach out to us ahead of time. It's much better to I think anticipate that going into the application deadline than learn about it after the fact. I do see a couple of questions about wireless and in the chat box here, and I have to tell you, round one included almost primarily fiber to the home projects, and that was reflective of the applications that we received. We consider ourselves to be technology neutral here with Connect Illinois, but we do have requirements that all projects are scalable up to symmetrical service of 100 megabits per second by 100 megabits per second. That's the whole idea of going into an area once, doing it right, and not having to reinvest public dollars in that same area again. And so there are different ways to get at that and include a wireless component. And so I think emphasizing the fiber, for instance, that connects those wireless towers is one way of doing that. And so I think there's some real opportunity, I think, there, both in terms of kind of short-term, intermediate-term broadband expansion with our stated goals of long-term future-proof investment. And so just wanted to make mention of that. That's something that we're definitely, definitely willing to partner on.
Thanks, Matt. We have one other question about if you wanted to speak to anything that specifically distinguished the successful projects from those that were not awarded in the first round.
Yeah, I think, first of all, we were really happy with round one applications. We thought a lot of thoughtfulness went into the applications that we received. And, I think if you look at the projects that were funded, I think that they were able to demonstrate clearly what they wanted to use the state dollars for. They were able to demonstrate the need for the public investment in extending broadband networks to hard to serve areas. They also were able to clearly demonstrate that they were not only ready to do the work, but they had a strong track record of doing good work, and that the investments that we were partnering on would stand the test of time and that were scalable. And so those are some of the themes that I've certainly spent more time in past webinars kind of talking about the vision of Connect Illinois and the sorts of things that we emphasize there in terms of projects. But those are some of the pieces that stood out. And I think, look, we want to be as helpful as we possibly can to our potential applicants. And so if an applicant would like to have a conversation about understanding our program, we're certainly happy to do that. We'll probably tell you the same thing that we say in a webinar, but we're able to maybe get in a little bit more detail and answer some specific questions. And the whole idea here is we're trying to help folks across the board better understand this funding opportunity and to help you take advantage of it. And so don't ever hesitate to reach out to us. We know a lot of time goes into the application process. In a past life, I was on that end of the equation, and I have always really appreciated, being able to call up, somebody in a broadband office and get some answers to questions before I devote a lot of time to something. So I think that's a really important part of what we do. And so don't hesitate to reach out to us. Again, broadband@illinois.gov is the best place to reach us.
Thanks, Matt. And I also put that email address in the chat box so people can see that there. I don't see any other questions at this time, so you can of course use that email address if you do think of additional questions after we get off the call today. So before I just close this up, I want to thank you again, Matt, for always doing this and being here to talk directly with folks. And I want to remind everyone also that there's going to be next Thursday on January 14th at noon. Matt's coming back on and he's going to give a report out on round one of the Illinois Connected Communities projects and progress and things like that. So I wanted to make sure to remind everyone about that. To attend for that, I will include that information also in the follow-up email today with the materials. And Matt, if you don't have anything else you want to say, we can go ahead and close up for today.
Well, that's it. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, everybody. We really look forward to working with you all.
Thanks, everybody.